Once again, I encourage you to get up and move around. This is a long time with listening to someone talk. So get up and move around if you want to move around. But let's talk about preparing for pillow time, because what we do throughout the day really prepares us for how well we're going to sleep at night. As with most lifestyle medicine pillars, sleep is important across the lifespan. However, prioritizing sleep and really thinking about optimizing your sleep becomes more important now than ever during the menopause transition and beyond. And most women experience some challenges with sleeping during that menopause transition. As hormones are going up and down, we see more night sweats. We see some hormonal changes, which can decrease in estrogen, can decrease your the circadian, can disrupt your circadian rhythm. So it does become more challenging. I would be lying to you. I am evidence based as much as I can be. If the evidence changes, I will try to tell you what I find. I try to go through the literature so you don't have to stay up to date on all of this menopausal literature. I try to do that for you. But we see that it becomes more challenging on average, not everyone, but for women to sleep or to get high quality, sufficient sleep as they age. But there's so much that we can do. So even though those sleep struggles become more common, often with the menopause transition and beyond, it is so important. Sleep benefits for midlife women. It impacts mood. Research shows that it impacts our quality of life. It helps us with stress management. It helps us with relationship communication, not to mention all of the health benefits for the decreased risk of cardiovascular disease and supporting lipid health and decreasing inflammation. We know that getting inadequate sleep, so not getting sufficient quantity, number of hours of sleep, and 7 is what I recommend people shoot for, at least 7 hours of sleep a night. But getting inadequate sleep, quantity or quality, is inflammatory. It is inflammatory to the brain. It's inflammatory throughout the body. On the other hand, getting restorative sleep, getting adequate sleep, even though it might be more challenging, it might take laying in bed a little bit longer, or it might take really prioritizing what you do during the day to prepare for your pillow time. But getting restorative sleep is anti-inflammatory for the brain. So once again, me being at an increased risk for dementia, I am extra careful to do everything that I can to support my brain health. And the literature shows restorative sleep is so important for decreasing brain inflammation. Now, as I mentioned, 7 hours is what's thought to be optimal. And so this was some really interesting research in Nature Aging. If you pull the original document, you can actually see the graphs. But what they did is they did neuroimaging. So they actually looked at cortical thickness and the cortical volume of the brain. They did neuroimaging in 21,000 middle and older age women, and they looked at their sleep duration. And what they found was that women who were sleeping typically about 7 hours, 7 to 8 hours a night, compared to people who were sleeping really long and people who were sleeping shorter, that so the people could do the fastest pair matching when they were getting adequate sleep. They had the best mental health. So they felt the best mental health. Also, women who were getting about 7 hours or so of sleep a night typically had the thickest brain cortex, and the highest brain volume. So those are all things that we want as we go through the menopause transition and beyond. So one of the things that's really important and that really has an impact on our circadian rhythm is keeping a regular sleep-wake schedule. Now, it doesn't mean you have to go to bed at exactly the same minute, but it means really getting your body in the habit of, I go to bed at this time and I wake up at about this time. Now, of course, there's always going to be different things. I typically go to bed around 9:30 or 10, and I am up bright in the morning, bright and early. And so my time is really similar. Last night I went to a theater show that happened to be later, and I went to bed later. So it doesn't mean that you can't change this, but really knowing the best thing for sleep is, as much as possible, really trying to stick to a regular sleep-wake schedule. Try to get some bright morning light, to get out there and at least get a few minutes of some bright morning light. We know that light hitting our retina helps with our circadian rhythm, helps to set that for the day. Trying to get in some movement, but not too close to bedtime. So moving more throughout the day also supports better sleep at night. As you get close to the evening, really trying to dim the light. So like an hour to 2 hours before bedtime, really thinking of, what type of light exposure am I getting? I don't want to be under those bright lights. So what can I do as I get close to bedtime to really tell myself it's time to wind down? Can I turn off those screens? The panel that I was on with the ophthalmologist talked about the importance of limiting blue wavelength light, or blue blocking glasses, or can we set our devices so that we're really trying to turn off our screens, first of all, to decrease our psychological stress, but then also to help decrease our exposure to blue wavelength light around bedtime. We know that blue wavelength light, so it comes from the sun, but it also comes from our computers, it comes from our smartphones, it comes from our devices. That blue wavelength light increases alertness and suppresses melatonin production, which is what we want during the morning, right? We want that getting some blue wavelength light, get a little bit of outside, get sun, that's trying to suppress melatonin production in the morning. That's what we want. But as we get closer to night, we want that melatonin to be able to increase. They've actually done research looking at people who used e-readers versus a paper book. And they found that the people, so even if they're reading the same thing, same amount of time, they control for all these different things, the people who were using electronic readers to read before bed, they took longer to fall asleep, they had poorer sleep quality, and they felt less alert the next day. So even if you're like, I don't think it really has that big of an impact on me, I like to read my relaxing book on my e-reader before bed, whatever you can do to move away from those screens. So I have a stack of my paper books, even though I might read on something electronic during the day. At night, I have my paper books by my bedside as I try to relax pre-bed activities, relax and wind down. What is it that helps you to relax? Maybe it's taking a warm bath. Maybe it's doing some gentle yoga poses, some stretching. Maybe it's journaling, doing some gratitude, writing what you're thankful for during the day. Things that one of the triggers for sleep is a decrease in core body temperature. And so like taking a warm bath or like a warm shower and then like soon before bed and then getting out helps to drop our core body temperature. That can help with getting more sleep. Keeping our feet warm, it might sound counterintuitive, but if we're able to keep our extremities warmer, it helps to drop our core body temperature, and that can help us with sleep as well. So maybe you want to throw on some warm socks. As it becomes more common that women need to get up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom. So think about using the restroom one last time. Push lots of your hydration more towards the morning. So don't drink tons and tons and tons of water right before bedtime, right? That just makes sense. You don't want to increase your chances of needing to get up multiple times during the night. So try to, of course, stay well hydrated, but don't overhydrate close to bedtime, and then use the bathroom one last time. Prepare for night sweats. Have a fan nearby. What is it that can help you if you do wake up with a night sweat? Is it that you do want to take a sip of cold water? Like, what is it that will help you? Maybe you want to have a fan that you can turn on. All of those different things help to prepare you for pillow time. So what you do during the day has a tremendous impact on your ability to get restorative sleep and to thrive through the menopause transition and beyond. Now, let's talk about how to enhance your energy recovery environments. So as we move through the menopause transition, we know it becomes more common to experience physical and emotional fatigue. And so we need to be really mindful of our energy levels, not just our time. So we often think about like, how do I best use my time management, but I also want you to think of energy management. When do you have the most energy during the day? When do you feel like you can best do the work you want to do? When do you need to say, you know what, I think I have a rough day ahead, or I have some different things. I want to be mindful of really saving my energy, right? Like I'm doing this morning. So I didn't get up and do different meetings before I even came here, right? I'm mindful of my energy management. Also, be gentle with yourself. After chemotherapy, I didn't have as much energy, and still, even now being 5 years out from chemotherapy, I have more fatigue than I used to. And so it becomes very important as we age I believe, to really listen to ourselves, to be gentle with ourselves, to think about using our energy mindfully and in ways that we want to. I would say prior to a cancer diagnosis, I was more like, I can go, 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 go. And now my energy is more limited, and I've gone through a life-changing experience, being confronted with my mortality in a very real way. That's made me think I want to use my energy as wisely as possible to do things that I love, to really get the message out about things I'm passionate about lifestyle medicine through the menopause transition and beyond. This is something that I found from I believe her last name is Macchiano. I'm forgetting offhand, but this is not my concept. If you look at the spoon theory, or self-care with spoons, you will find this. But this is a concept that I was told about from a psychologist while I was going through chemotherapy. And I said, like I want to do these things and I still want to be able to take care of my kids. I still want to be able to do X, Y, or Z. I still want to be able to keep teaching because I love teaching. And the therapist said, have you heard of the spoon theory? And I said no. And so it's this theory that Machiano came up with that says like you kind of like start your day with a certain number of spoons. And so like while going through chemotherapy, or maybe as a cancer survivor, maybe I have fewer spoons than I did before chemotherapy, right? But everyone starts their day with a different number of spoons depending on what they're going on with. You can use spoons to take care of yourself, but once you use them, you need to wash them so you can use them again. You can't use spoons you don't have. And so, for example, doing different things might cost you different numbers of spoons. And so maybe it's like, waking up, getting dressed, maybe that's 1 spoon, or maybe it's doing a craft or cooking or going for a walk. Maybe that's 2 spoons. Or maybe doing exercise or going to an appointment, maybe that's going to cost 4 spoons. And so thinking about like, how much energy am I going to use with doing this? And knowing that if I want to be able to continue doing these things, I'm going to need to wash my spoons. I'm going to need to engage in self-care, like that green shows. I'm going to need to get adequate sleep, to eat, to be gentle to myself. I'm going to need to draw on support from loved ones. I'm going to need to get adequate physical activity, but not too much, not too little. And to realize that it's sometimes in your life, if you're going through like a chronic illness, if you've experienced trauma, if you're experiencing mental illness, all of those things can impact the number of spoons we start with and maybe how many spoons we use when we do these different things. So just to realize, and this says be kind to others, and I would say be kind to yourself too. You may not know if someone else has a chronic illness, they've experienced trauma, or they're going through something. So we all have a different number of spoons. And then to also be mindful and to be kind to yourself. I feel like I do that more now, being a cancer survivor, saying, I know that you want to have a meeting that goes till 7:30 down in Denver. It's going to be an hour drive home afterwards. You know what? I don't think that I can do that meeting in person and drive home that late and feel really good. I'll join you on Zoom. That's actually something that I just kind of negotiated recently, was like, I would love to do this, but doing that in person that late is just not good for my energy. And so I'm going to honor myself, and I'm going to say, you know what, is there, I have another suggestion, and see if that'll work. Also, I want you to think about making your bedroom a sanctuary for sleep. Dr. Beth Brady, she says, keep your bedroom like a cave. So keep it dark. So try and get rid of those blue lights, right? Keep it dark. And I want you to make sure that you have enough light, or you can turn on something so if you need to go to the bathroom, that you can get there safely, because I do not want you having a fracture or falling or something like that. But keep your room dark, and then be able to turn something on if you need to get up and go to the bathroom. Keep your bedroom very quiet. So for darkness, you can use like room darkening shades if you need to, but get it dark. I have my alarm clock flipped the other way. I don't have my phone next to me. So do different things that you can to keep it really, really dark. Keep it quiet. I've actually heard from some people too, they sleep with the TV on. Like, you do not want that. You want that TV. If you have a TV in your bedroom, you want it off, right? You do not want to have that light going on, even if it's on silent or sound. Like, you want it dark, you want it quiet. So keep your bedroom as silent as it can be. Even if if you need like a white noise machine, if you live like in an apartment or somewhere where it's louder, or if you need like earplugs, but keep it quiet. And then keep it slightly cool. 60 to 67 degrees Fahrenheit is typically kind of considered the optimal temperature, but keep it slightly cool. So keep your bedroom like a cave. We also know that as people go through the menopause transition, we see an increase in physical and mental exhaustion, with about 20% of premenopausal women saying that they experience this, about 46% during that menopause transition, during that hormonal roller coaster, and then post-menopause, so no period for 1 year and beyond. We see that 85% of women feel physically and mentally exhausted. So we need to think about what we can do for our energy. Now, I mentioned this earlier already about this is a drawing of that mitochondria, the powerhouse, the battery of the cell. But we know that getting adequate physical activity increases the biogenesis, or the creation of new mitochondria. It increases their activity. We have increased muscle endurance, and it decreases muscle fatigue. So we need to be getting in that movement. In fact, we see that dependent response to physical activity. So as somebody gets in more steps per day, as somebody does more moderate to vigorous physical activity, we typically see an increase in their vitality and their energy. So do what you can to decrease your sedentary behavior. Also, this is some literature that comes out of the breast cancer survivor literature, but I think that you might still find it interesting. This was actually research they did on a fatigue reduction diet in breast cancer survivors like myself, and they had an intervention that seemed to show some success. And so they were recommending things that we've already talked about that go along with our blood sugar stability and our emphasizing fiber. Get at least half of their grains from whole grains. I would say try to make all of your grains whole grains. Try not to eat those refined grains. Get 5 servings of vegetable daily. Try to get at least 1 leafy green. I get my leafy greens in every day. There's some great research out there on brain health, on once again muscle strength. So get those leafy greens. Oh my goodness, there are so many reasons to get your leafy greens. This fatigue reduction diet, they had 1 serving of something with tomato, 1 yellow or orange vegetable a day. They recommended 2 servings of fruit, at least one high in vitamin C, and then 2 servings of something that's omega-3 fatty acid rich, such as nuts, seeds, or fish. They recommend at least just 1 day per max from fish if you are someone who eats animal products or is eating fish. Some examples of vitamin C rich fruits: oranges, guava, cantaloupe, kiwi, lemon, papaya, strawberries. There are so many delicious ways to get in those fatigue reducing foods. Also, omega-3 fatty acids. You probably already know they're in many nuts and seeds. I love to get mine from ground flax seeds. You want to grind or buy pre-ground or grind your flax seeds so that you get the full benefit from them. But some different ways to get some omega-3 fatty acids in. Also, there's research showing that micro breaks can be beneficial for helping to reduce or eliminate mental and physical fatigue. They've been found to increase energy, boost performance and creativity, and they can just be 5 to 10 minutes. So thinking about how can you manage your energy throughout the day? How can you take some micro breaks? And maybe this is doing your exercise snack. Maybe it's stepping outside and taking some deep breaths. Maybe it's standing and stretching. Maybe it's calling a friend. But taking these micro breaks where you do something different. Maybe it's you have a certain hobby and you're going to go and you're going to take some pictures for a few minutes, or like, what is it? But how can you take some micro breaks in order to increase your energy? So our environment impacts your emotional energy too. I know for me, if I'm in an environment and I'm trying to multitask, that's not a picture of me, but I've done that before, where I'm trying to cook dinner for the boys and I'm trying to be on a Zoom call and trying to do all these different things. When you're multitasking, that's an energy drainer. When you're having a fight or you're in a confrontational conversation, that's an energy drainer. If my desk looks like this, like when it gets messy, for me, that's an energy drainer. I do best when my desk is neat. I have a small desk. I sit here in my den. If it's neater, I feel better. It does not drain my energy. If I'm tired, that's an energy drainer. Now, and what are energy boosters? So there's some great research out there on energy boosters, and being in nature has been found to increase our energy. And if you can't be out in nature all the time, so I have a window right here that I can look out and see. I can look out and be in nature. I actually have like a suction bird feeder on my window right here that brings nature in closer to me when the birds, or sometimes the squirrels, when they eat some of the bird seed. I have some rocks back here that I like. I have some reeds. I have some different things where I bring a little bit of nature inside as well, some plants. But being in nature has been found to be an energy booster. Doing our hobbies, doing what we love, being with our pets. My dog Cosmo is often in here when I work. He's not in here right now because if he happened to hear a noise, he would start barking maybe during the presentation. But having my pets with me, having my Cosmo, my Portuguese water dog, with me is an energy booster. Spending time with things that bring me spiritual well-being, with being in a state of awe. I'm doing some research right now into awe and how we get more awe and that emotion, and what can we do to really tap into awe in nature, or being able to experience things that make us feel like we're part of something much greater. Spiritual well-being. What are those things that you need in order to support your spiritual well-being that help to boost your energy? Maybe it's getting movement. That's not me on my ball chair, but somebody on a ball chair, right? Like, what is it that we can do throughout our day to really maximize our energy? And then self-compassion, body compassion, self-compassion, being with others, being socially connected is so important for our energy. So now let's talk about taking some breath breaks or managing our stress in order to optimize our health and our well-being through the menopause transition and beyond. So this is the Yerkes-Dodson law, and you can see on the y-axis we have performance. So not all stress is bad. On the x-axis we have the stress level, and so we don't want to be all the way over here where we have hardly any stress, where we're just sitting at home every day, right? That's probably not a problem for most of us, but we don't want to be inactive and bored and have hardly any stress. That but too many of us, I know I've been there before, are in that stress overload where we feel exhausted, we feel panic, anxiety, anger, burnout, and breakdown. We're fatigued. So many of us kind of live over in that area as our normal. However, we want to be in that area of peak performance. We want to be motivated. We want to be focused. We want to have an optimal level of good stress and not that distress. And so thinking about how can we make sure that we're at a point where we're healthy? And I'd like you to think right now, like, where are you as far as being on that curve? If you had to put yourself over the last week, where have I been on this curve? Would you be in that peak performance zone, or would you be over in that unhealthy or in that distressed area? And then we'll think about how can you try to help get back to more of that peak performance zone. It's important to understand that as we go through the menopausal transition, as we have those hormonal changes and then a decrease in estrogen, especially with those fluctuations, it increases our sensitivity to stress. It makes it more likely that we become emotionally dysregulated, or that we have a hard time feeling emotionally calm or balanced, especially when something goes awry. And that's just because of the change in hormonal levels. And so I like to tell patients, you are not crazy if you're somebody who thinks like, this used to not bother me so much. Like if this happened, I wouldn't feel like, oh, this is a huge deal. But now I feel like when something happens like this, I feel like I'm thrown off balance so easy. You are not crazy. This is a diagram that I tried to make this with these little images and things to try to show you what I've drawn on the back of like charts and papers so long. But before the menopause transition, it's like we have a large stress tolerance platform, right? We can be pushed around by those stressors, things go wrong, and it takes a lot for us to have what the literature calls an unwanted stress reaction. Now, I don't know about you, but I have had an unwanted stress reaction before. Like when life is so stressful that you just feel like, oh my gosh, I'm ready to have a meltdown. Like life is like, this is too much. I just cannot deal with this anymore. That would be an unwanted stress reaction. And so we can still have those premenopausally, but it takes more to push us off balance. During the menopause transition with those hormonal changes, it's like we still have that stress tolerance platform, but it's like it's shrunk. It's like it's harder to stay in balance, or we're more easily pushed off balance by stressors into that area where we can have an unwanted stress reaction. Now, risk factors for unwanted stress reactions are poor nutrition, unhealthy body composition. So many of the different lifestyle medicine factors that we've already talked about, a lack of physical fitness, inadequate sleep, lack of social support. Those are all risk factors for unwanted stress reactions. So it's important to optimize lifestyle medicine throughout the lifespan, but especially important during the menopausal transition. You've heard me say that a few times now. So we want to do what we can to increase stress resilience, and breath breaks is one of the things that I'll talk to you about doing, but we want to do lots of different things that increase our stress resilience. The research shows us that mind-body interventions, like meditation, like mindful breathing, like doing yoga, all of those mind-body interventions help to increase our stress resilience. So it's like they're helping to push us back toward balance, or maybe make that stress tolerance platform a little bigger. Eating a high-quality diet, nourishing the gut microbiome, getting an adequate fiber, getting adequate physical activity, getting adequate sleep, and having social support. Those all increase our stress resilience. I want you to think about a stress reduction toolbox. What is it that works for you in order to support your stress resilience, for you to help weather life's turmoil, ups and downs, right? We're not going to eliminate stress from our world. So how are we going to become as resilient as possible to it? You have different things. So things that have worked before, maybe it's reading a relaxing book, maybe it's getting out in nature, maybe it's petting your dog. But think about like what is in your stress reduction toolbox. There's probably things that have helped you in the past, or maybe things you've heard about, like, oh, my friend told me that sometimes doing a body scan, or like listening to this YouTube thing on a body scan where I focus on each part of my body and relaxing it and what tension is there and can I release it, or progressive muscle relaxation where I tense up some muscles, then I relax them. and notice the difference. Then tense up the muscles, then relax them, and kind of go through different body or muscle parts. Or guided imagery, listening to maybe a script on YouTube that talks about being somewhere relaxing for you, or listening to relaxing music. These are ideas. Maybe they're things that you've done in the past but haven't done in a while. Maybe you need to sharpen some tools in your toolbox or take them out. Maybe they're dusty or rusty, and be able to use them again. So I want to talk about 478 breathing. This comes from or comes out of pranayama, but Dr. Andrew Weil is also famous for really getting this out there in mainstream. But 478 breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system. You're increasing oxygen delivery throughout your body, getting that to your cells. It's calming and has been found to decrease anxiety. So I'd like for you to try this now. I'd like for you to inhale for 4 seconds through your nose, and then pause for about 7 seconds. 4, 5, 6, 7, and then exhale for 8 through your mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's do this a few more times. Inhale through your nose for 4. 4. Hold 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale for 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale through your mouth for 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the power of our breath, we have it with us all the time. We can really, really work with our vagus nerve, with the parasympathetic nervous system. I'd encourage you to think of doing mindful breaths and doing different things that really help you with your stress toolbox in order to support your resilience to stress. So my last of these 8 tips for you is to prioritize people and purpose. So have you ever had a time when you were just surviving but wanted to thrive? That's how I felt when I finished my training as an OB-GYN, and I was like, I need to focus on healthy lifestyle behaviors. And when I finished chemotherapy, I was like, oh my gosh, I did my lifestyle things and I did conventional medicine, but I felt like I was just surviving, but I wanted to thrive. So I finished my treatment, and as I was finishing, I thought, you know what? I got breast cancer, even though I was eating healthy, I was exercising, I was not drinking alcohol, I was nursing my babies, and like I was doing those right things. And so I thought, well, now I'm going to exercise harder, and I'm going to make sure I never eat anything that's not a super healthy food, and I'm going to be adamant about never going to bed late. So I thought I'm just going to like push myself as hard as I can to do everything evidence-based. And so I was really running from the fear of recurrence. I was like, I'm going to push myself, but I'm going to do these lifestyle behaviors because I am afraid of getting a recurrence. My cancer was crazy aggressive. 1 year not there, we didn't see it on a 3D mammogram, and on the next year, a 2-centimeter mass that was invading my chest wall with a really, really high oncotype, really aggressive. And so I went to a survivorship group, and because I had seen the literature, like it's good for breast cancer survivors to do group things. I'd seen the literature. And so I was like, I'm literature based. I'm all in. I'm going to do everything. And I went to one group, and they talked about, you have an increased risk of all of these horrible things. Like it was just horrible. And I thought, I can't do that. So I went to one meeting, and I thought, I am never coming back. So I talked to my dear friend and mentor, Dr. Beth Frades, who's a physiatrist, a physician at faculty at Harvard, and works at Spalding Rehabilitation Hospital. She's the president of the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. I've served on the board for 3 years. We overlapped our terms. An amazing mentor, friend. And so I was talking with her about something else, not related to survivorship, but I just mentioned to her, I went to one of those survivorship groups. It was horrible, and I am never going back again. And she said, what do you think about joining Dr. Amy Commander's group for breast cancer survivors? As I mentioned before, Dr. Amy Commander is the head of lifestyle medicine for oncology at one of the Harvard Health System hospitals. And so the pandemic had just started. And so Dr. Amy Commander, working with Harvard breast cancer survivors, or at her hospital, they'd gone to remote because of the pandemic. So they're all in Boston or that area. And they had just gone remote like the week or so before. And so Beth said, you could join Amy's group. And I thought, oh my gosh, I do not want to go to another one of those horrible groups. And Beth said, nope, this is different. Beth created this about 15 years ago. Her dad was a stroke survivor. And so she created this program initially, a 12-week program, meeting as a group, 10 to 15 people meeting weekly or something, for 12 weeks. And she created this for stroke survivors and their caregivers, all evidence-based. And she said, I think you'll find this very different. Just give it a try. And so because I love Beth and it was her recommendation, I thought I'll give this a try. And what I really found was that this program was so different and that it helped me think about, how can I run with joy? How can I think about the joy of eating nourishing, delicious foods? How can I think about the joy of physical activity? It gave me hope. It gave me hope for being able to thrive and not just be a breast cancer survivor the rest of my life who was going to run from the fear of recurrence, but really run with joy. And so now we've partnered together, Dr. Amy Commander, Dr. Beth Frades, who created this original program. Dr. Amy Commander modified it and leads it for breast cancer survivors now out east. And so we've done some research on it. And after I finished that program, I said, how can I help? How can I help bring this to others? Because I really saw the injustice of even though I'm so thankful that my insurance helped to pay for chemotherapy and surgeries and reconstruction, I'm so thankful. But to find out that insurance usually doesn't cover survivorship programs like this, like I had access to all of this, but every woman should have access to it. So this is Dr. Amy Commander, and this is the group that I did not join live, but it's part of this group. Dr. Amy Commander is sitting on the floor there, and then these are other members of the Paving the Path to Wellness for Breast Cancer Survivors group. They're probably meeting in Boston somewhere out there, but I joined some members of these groups, and I learned a different way to move forward as a breast cancer, not just survivor, but thriver. So they run these groups for for stroke survivors, for mental well-being, for type 2 diabetes, for menopause, for breast cancer survivors. This is the breast cancer survivor collage. But paving is a movement. Dr. Beth Frades, Dr. Amy Commander, and I, along with Val Tivnan, formed a nonprofit organization, Paving the Path to Wellness, to really try to get as many people access to this as possible. We try to help people